Before we begin, I would like you to take a quiet moment. Just pause and think about the last time you truly felt seen, heard, and understood. Now, gently shift that thought. Imagine what it might feel like to live in a world where your voice is overlooked, where your presence is unnoticed, where your story is never fully heard. Psychology helps us explore not only how we think and feel, but how our environments shape those experiences. Today, we are not just studying concepts, we are stepping into lived realities, into the silent spaces where marginalization shapes the human mind.
Some people grow up feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling heard, and others learn something very different. They learn to stay quiet, to stay small, to disappear.
A new page. The sixth was mixed in trust and must, be serious or play. And on the final seventh day, it was the 6th of May. In Wonderland, there is a queen. In wounded lives, she's not been seen. Instead, the Wonder Alice or the road to the land of Oz. There's wounded Shanice who lives against all odds. The little fears that do appear in Disney's happy life are now replaced by heartstone tears of raped and wounded wives. Warm and tender, the real road to a nameless end will be returned to sender. When boreness overtakes the sense and inner thoughts are too intense, the trend will be I lost direction. In useless science, it's called reflection. Hypocrisy, no gravity, insanity, or let it be. The step to take is felt by heart. The crap we make is borne apart. Just turn to that, what we know, and do enjoy the end of show. No blame, no shame, no aim on fame, no endless thoughts about a name. It's all been done, it's all been said. There will be always someone else instead. The problem as a friend, to deal with, to let it end. Who am I and what I'm for is answered by an open door.
I hope everybody can hear me. If not,
Yes,
please,
doctor.
organization, let me know. We have many greetings from Sri Lanka, of course, but as always, if you plan something important, there is a power cut. I managed to solve it for now. I hope it will stay like this. I hope you can. Can you see the screen?
Yes, doctor. We can see the screen.
Okay. So I hoped, without the interruption, that you could enjoy and ground a little bit on the intro sound as it was meant to be. In this case, I also wanted to add that the first word in this grounding serenity prayer, God, is in terms of that the God of your understanding. That can be God, Allah, Buddha, the universe, or anything you're connected to as a higher power. So I'm gonna start again, and I'm gonna ask you all to close your eyes, feel your feet on the ground, try to breathe out all the air that you have, and when you start breathing in, you count to 5. You breathe out, you count to 5. You breathe in, you count to 5. You just do that for half a minute, and I will continue. So some people grow up feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling heard, and others learn something very different. They learn to stay quiet, to stay small, to disappear. Not because they have nothing to say, but because no one is listening. And today we explore what that does to the human mind. Psychology and marginalized communities is understanding the inner world of social inequality. Question: who gets to feel safe, seen, and heard? Just take a moment. Who actually gets that experience consistently in society? Well, let me introduce you to Amina. It's a fictive or a hypothetical case. Let's call her Amina. Amina is bright, capable, observant. She notices things others don't. But over time, she also notices something else, that her voice is not always heard. And slowly, without anyone saying it directly, she begins to learn where she stands. Now let me introduce you to Lars. This is not a hypothetical case. This is a case, actually, as you can see, which has directly impact on me as a person. So let's call him Lars. Lars is bright. He notices things others don't. But over time, he also notices something else, that his voice is not always heard. And slowly, without anyone saying it directly, he begins to learn where he stands. In this case, in my case, it started with a psychological diagnosis. It's called highly gifted. I think it's the only diagnosis in psychology that sounds like a gift, but it's actually a burden. I've put some quotes of, let's say, people who are thinking different, just to shine a different light on what exclusion from society can mean as well. As I mentioned the example of Amina before, this is a different example. This is from a person who was born in the Netherlands. He's heterosexual. He's white. And for the standards of the world, this has all the ingredients to be privileged. But as you can see on the screen, and the next one, just go through a few quotes: Mozart, Da Vinci, Aristotle. And you see the quotes that are standing under it. Here's an important one from Oscar Wilde. The public is wonderfully tolerant. It forgives everything except genius. Or replace genius with being different, or having different social, environmental setups, or different thoughts, or different privileges than the majority of the society. You can go slowly through this. I mean, everybody knows Einstein as well. And they led a lonely life, because Einstein was one of the fortunate ones who at least was still alive when his revolution theory was acknowledged. But he's been fighting for 36 years in solitude and fight against the majority because nobody accepted his theory before. There's one idea that centered this talk. Marginalization shapes identity, and mental health justice must be psychosocial justice. Psychology is often described as a study of the mind and behavior, how we think, how we feel, how we act. But there's something we sometimes forget. The mind does not exist in isolation. The mind is constantly shaped by the world around us, by culture, by expectations, by power, and by whether we are included or excluded. Marginalization is not only about having less, it's about being seen less, heard less, valued less, and over time, that changes something inside. This can affect many different groups. People living in poverty, ethnic or cultural minorities, refugees, people with disabilities, gender minorities, different experiences, but often similar psychological patterns. It begins internally. Self-worth starts to shift. Identity becomes uncertain, and a quiet question appears. Am I enough? Emotionally, it builds. Anxiety, depression, chronic stress, not because of one moment, but because the experience is continuous. And socially, behavior changes. People withdraw. They trust less. They participate less. Sometimes they disappear before they are pushed out. Exclusion rewires identity. And this is where Amina, the hypothetical case of before, is changing. Not because of she lacks ability, but because she has learned what to expect. At some point, she stops trying in the same way. Not consciously, but quietly, internally. And often, this doesn't start with her. It is carried across generations, through trauma, through stigma, through silence, until it becomes normal. Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine being in a place where you're not seen, not heard, not valued. Every word you speak fades away. Every step you take feels uncertain. And slowly you begin to question yourself. Now imagine living like that every day and notice what happens inside of you. Not everyone has equal access to support. Some face financial barriers, others face misunderstanding, or systems that were never designed for them. In other words, care is not equally distributed. But this is not the whole story, because people and communities also develop strength. They create ways to cope, to support each other, to find meaning, even within difficulty. That is resilience. And the real solutions are not only individual, they are collective. Peer support, education, community-based care, systems that understand trauma instead of ignoring it. The goal is not dependency. The goal is empowerment. Because empowerment is bigger than dependency. Because well-being is built through belonging, through safety, and through being recognized as someone who matters. And this is where you come in, because every observation can become a research question. Every experience can become knowledge. We can study resilience, stigma, access to care, not as abstract ideas, but as lived realities. Mental health is not only personal, it is shaped by the world around us. And when the world creates inequality, it also shapes suffering. So healing cannot be individual alone. It must become collective. Mental health justice is social justice. So I leave you with this. What role do you play in reducing psychological inequality? This brings me back to the real case example that included me, but about the psychological diagnosis of being highly gifted. I was lucky enough to find an organization that is specialized in that. It's called Mensa. You see it on the slide. And this is not about because some people are very intelligent, that they are blessed with that. It is about exactly the same type of being excluded because you have the feeling you don't belong. Like I said, I was lucky enough to find this organization, and this organization made me have a path that I became a doctor. And still, until the day of today, I have to sometimes the feeling that I must adjust to be understood. But I've learned to cope with it with the help of this organization. And I'm not showing it to make advertisement for Mensa, but I'm showing it because as you think about marginalization in general, you wouldn't come up with something like this, but it exists parallel in all the other ones. We come now to a part of today's little bit different approach than you might have been used to in the last 13, I think, theme lectures that you had, because I would like to involve you as participants to come up with questions, and I try to answer them as good as I can. But the most important thing about today's lecture or interaction, I would rather call it like that, is that there is equality in inequality, and that all the people who are now participating in this idea of Blue Ocean Insights, in my case, a connection to Madura Fernando, that everybody has iconic moments in their lives that have been shaped, changed, for the good, for the bad. And in this, we can find each other. I would like to ask the host to help me a bit with this in the questions and answer part, because I have to make my screen a little bit smaller. Um, can Maduro or Blue Ocean please connect as well for reaching out to the people who have questions and who can?
Yeah, doctor. I think you have raise hand option. So if you have any questions, you can use the raise hand option so that we can unmute you so that you can talk to Dr. Lars and raise your questions.
Okay, can you take the direction of that?
Yes. No. Okay. Then you can come up with the questions later on. We'll give you time. So we can have a discussion with the doctor while you are preparing your questions and all. So yeah, there's one who's raising hand.
Hello, doctor.
Hello.
Hello. I am from India and I am working in the mental health space. And our project is basically developing a peer support model in higher education institutions. And coming from marginalized communities myself, I am also exploring the communities' ways of resilient techniques. I also did some kind of research on how community spaces are where we can vent and how a group support is essential there. I'm just confused about uh, there are like quite a literature about the communities has their own process of adaptation, resilience, but I'm like a little doubtful that these theories are coming from academia from the West, and there are so much ethnography studies that are there. So I'm just confused about what kind of study method to select and to go within the communities and to work or to implement or to do any implementation research.
Okay. Understandable.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to have this addition from a personal case, because it's when you talk about marginalized community, I hear a lot that, of course, it's the theories or the case studies and everything is coming from the West, and that's correct, because it's also let's say there's a head start there, because economically there is not such a big struggle. So I mean, the luxury of being self-reflective is and not being in survival mode is, of course, an inequality in chances. I understand that. But what I sense, or what I get a little bit of what you're feeling, is actually a very real and important tension in research, not confusion in a negative sense, but a sign that you're thinking critically. Correct me if I'm wrong, no? Please.
Yeah, sure.
So you're essentially standing between two worlds: Western academic theory, often structured, generalized, how you say that, distant even, or lived
Yeah.
community reality. So con- context rich. Context rich means not that the content is rich, but well, the content is rich, not the people. Cultural dynamic, or often, well, how can I say it, better captured through ethnography. So how do I choose the right method actually to do meaningful work in communities? Is that your question?
Yeah, so basically, the frameworks or whatever which I told about the Western frameworks, even in India, the upper caste or there is also kind of social hierarchy there. They have adopted same and they did research within the marginalized communities, and that is kind of came with a lot of bias. And when a person from the community starts to do some research, there is kind of then this approach of what approach to take and what to follow. So. Uh, yeah, that is like a ethical kind of dilemma or confusion sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's based on just to understand your question in the right way, because there's, it depends a bit on what is your goal, right? So if you go with ethnographic qualitative research, um, and you mentioned the class system in caste system, sorry, in India.
Mm.
Um, so is it for yourself that you want to know if what right decision to make in what kind of direction your research method should or could work the best coming from India?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yes.
just personally, what I mostly advise with I have had some conventions with mental health workers in Pakistan and Middle East, Africa. I've worked in South Africa myself, which is a little bit different, of course, but still. So what we mostly try with, we call it interdisciplinary research methods. So in the new form, everything is hybrid. So this approach is called hybrid as well. So that within that it comes like ethnographic grounding. So enter the community, observe, listen, map realities, understand local logic, co-design with the community. So ask, what do you think works? Build interventions together. Then step three, or the third hybrid version of this one, is implementation research.
Yeah.
So that's pilot small interventions or track what actually happens, not just theory. And the other one is light measurements, so at surveys and or metrics after understanding the context. So this avoids the biggest mistake, impressing theory before understanding reality.
Mm. Mm.
Does it?
Yeah, making sense a bit. So yeah, like something to start off because yeah, there are some approaches which I thought in my mind, but yeah, getting sense.
Well, I can. It's also sometimes you have a simple decision shortcut, or yeah, how you want to put it. Is like if you feel like I don't fully trust the theory, then you start with ethnography. If you want
Mhm.
real world change, let's dream big. Use participatory. So sorry for a difficult word. And
Yeah, yeah.
implementation.
Mhm.
And I need evidence for systems. So if you have that, then add quantitative layer later.
Yeah,
And
like
I
the
think, sorry.
Like I just wanted to ask, like the quantitative layers, like people seeking support or kind of like this kind of metrics, like just an example, or what kind of quantitative? Can you just give example?
Yeah, well, that is exactly that. That's what the quantitative layer is proof of what is true, right? It's to kind of like go on from the practical uh, lived by understanding the reality and to implement that in your in your in your research. So that's the three thoughts. If you're doubting between I don't fully trust the theory, then I said before, like then you could start with ethnography, and change is participatory plus implementation. But if you feel I need evidence for systems, so then you have
Mm-hmm.
to uh, add the quantitative layer later. But
Okay.
maybe there's a last thought to maybe to become a translator between the options you're choosing from is if you can become a bridge. So you respect local knowledge, use academic tools wisely, and co-create solutions. That's basically the core of the hybrid solution.
So yeah, that looks interesting. Yeah. Thank you, sir. I will like try to go through these po- points you mentioned. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for your question.
There is another question in the chat. In case of quick decision process, how to be respectful towards marginalized community? Because quick decision, we may not consider multiple factors instantly, which in later may cause trouble. That is the question.
Okay. Um, it's a sharp question. I can see that you have all kind of like some experience in this field. Um, and so, like I said, it feels like a sharp or like an essential question. And honestly, it sits at the heart of the ethical fieldwork. So, yeah, you're right. Speed increases the risk of harm, especially with marginalized communities where trust or history and power dynamics matter deeply. Um, so the goal is not perfect decisions fast, but fast decisions with built-in respect and harm awareness. Um, just if something is not clear, please also raise a hand, because I mean I'm doing this kind of like blank, and I have to dig a little bit deeper. Although I prepared, of course, this topic today, but not everything that pops up I can right away like have a I say that like an academically right complete answer, but I can maybe what I said before about the fast decisions with the built-in respect and harm awareness to show a practical way to do that. To shift the goal from being right to not causing harm. So in quick decisions, you won't have full data, so your ethical anchor becomes, um, yeah, will this decision exclude, silence, or harm someone? If I'm wrong, who pays the price? This is, we there's a name for that. We call it the the minimum harm principles. Um, the other practical thing to put in there is to use a 5-second ethnical filter in real time. So representation, before acting, mentally check, so mentally or awarely check representation. Whose voice is missing right now? So, and then think about power. Am I deciding for them or with them? Then the risk. If this goes wrong, who's the most vulnerable? Think about reversibility. Can this decision be undone? And the last one is respect. Would I explain this decision openly to the community? So even what I've tried to do today as well, to speak slow and to build in pauses, and it helps to prevent major mistakes. Does that come close?
The participant who has raised that question, please give your feedback if you have any more questions.
If I have more questions? Well, my question was if that's giving an answer, or at least an opening answer to the question he asked, or he or she, sorry. Because what I started to, with the pauses, and this goes further than that, right? I mean, it's a pre-built ethical guardrails, so this typical psychological language. But quick decisions are safer when values are divided in advance. That makes sense. And this question, what I just asked you, if this makes sense, you should ask yourself basically constantly after making a decision. What I think also should be there when you're doubting about, when you don't want to hurt people, that there's a repair capacity built in. So acknowledge quickly, to be transparent, and to adjust or improve or change openly. Okay.
Doctor, there is another question in the chat. It's a long
Yeah.
question. How can multi-source quantitative and qualitative data sets be effectively combined to support decision making in fast-paced environments? That is his first question.
Sorry, can you repeat it again, because it was you were breaking off a little bit.
Yeah, how can multi-source quantitative and qualitative data sets be effectively combined to support decision making in fast-paced environments?
So if I got it right, you're essentially asking basically, how do I combine multiple data resources quickly without losing context or respect for the community? This goes into a very technical, but that's okay. The first principle in here is never to merge data. Try to triangulate this, if that makes sense. So in fast environments, trying to fully integrate data sets is too slow. Instead, triangulation, compare different data sources to see where they agree, differ, or warn you. So quantitative, what's happening, qualitative, why it's happening, and local voices, does this make sense here? I think without getting in this too technical, your core tool, if I did understand the question right, it goes into the core tool is the rapid synthesis triangle. So you use simple 3-layer structure, quantitative signal, fast, broad. So with like surveys or dashboards or KPIs. For example, 70% report low engagement. And qualitative insights, depth, meaning. So interviews, field notes, observations, example. Well, for example, people feel excluded from decision making. And then you have the third layer is a context community check. That's the reality filter, that what I kind of like tipped on before as well, is the quick validation with local actors. No, I mean, not actors in actors, but in participants. And for example, yes, but it's also about hierarchy and fear. If all three align, these 3-layer parts of the like I said, the rapid synthesis triangle, if all align, then you act quickly with confidence. If they conflict, slow down or pilot first. Can I ask something, Madura or Blue Ocean?
Yeah, you can ask.
Because if I go deeper into this topic, which I'm not unwillingly to do so, but it's pretty well, for the people who are working with it, not, but for other people, it's quite of a technical
Yes, that's right.
technical analysis, because it's about to compress qualitative data and build a live loop instead of a perfect analysis and all these things. So that's how you can protect against a bigger risk. And it's quite a wide, it would be almost a separate topic for how to approach a well built research that how say that goes when you're surrounded by fast decision environment. But I think what is the key insight here, to keep it a little bit like in general, is that I think you don't need perfect integration, but what you need is fast, respectful, reality checked direction. Does that make
Doctor,
sense?
yeah, I must add something to this, Doctor. So it depends on your research design. So first thing is you have to make sure that you know the research problem. First thing is you have to enhance your awareness of the research problem. So you can use qualitative method, or first you can use the qualitative method to just to get an idea about the research problem, and when you achieve the research awareness, the research problem awareness, you can go into deep. You can use interviews, focus group discussions, and other qualitative methods to fine tune your findings. So you have to maintain the breadth and the depth of your research so that it will be a valid research. And so it's like when you design the research, you have to think what are your constraints, the time constraints, cost constraints, and the tools which are available, and the contextual social aspects, everything, the availability of the data. So it depends on that. And when you go to ethnographic research, actually it's like now in Sri Lanka there was a professor called Professor Nandasena Rattapala. He has done so many ethnographic studies. He sometimes he was wearing some beggar's clothes, and he just acted like a beggar in a area where beggars are together. So he just uh, studying about the beggars for about 1 year or 2 years. So he lived with that reality. I mean, the beggar's reality. So he can, capture everything. Like if you give them a questionnaire, they are not going to feel that, no. And when you give a questionnaire, and that quantitative method is not matching in that context. So what he has done is he lived with those beggars and got the insights, the real life experience. So, and after that he might be able to come with the theory or something. He can provide the theoretical background. So after that sometimes he may be having a model, so to check that model, because he's coming up with the themes. So with these themes he can build up a model, and then that model can be quantitatively checked, because he has a strong conceptual framework. So longitudinally he can check that, like time to time, or a change in the situation. So interventions with human, I mean, with some interventions to make an impact on the beggar's life and all. So that's like it's like that. So when you come up with lived experience, you can convert it to numerology, and then you have these statistics and everything to fine tune your findings. So that's how it's. You have to always maintain a causal validity, because cause and effect has to be there. The interpretivism philosophy is applied when you are studying the lived experiences and all. And when it comes to statistics and mathematics, it is about an objective truth. So this is a balance between subjective and objective truths. So you have to make that balance. That's my idea about it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we touched that combination before when I talked about the hybrid method, but that's in an ideal form. What you're referring to, and I agree with that. I mean, I was just first when you started, I thought about the TV program called Undercover Boss, when a CEO of a company goes as a worker and tries to get the atmosphere from the work floor, but that's not because that's not about research. It's about like investigating in your own company. And I know a few other researchers that have been based. I know a German journalist who got for 1.5 years in as an part of the Islamic community after the Syria war, and there were a lot of refugees, and he lived as a refugee between the refugees for 1.5 years, and then came with a journalistic story, which is actually, uh, like you said, it doesn't make sense to come up with the two theoretical forms here. The other hand is that some people feel betrayed when you act like being one of them, and after it appears you're not. So there you also have to be careful, in my eyes, or my experience, that sometimes you have to be careful that to inform the people before you bring that out. If you understand what I mean.
Doctor, there seems to be another question from Rashid Nasir. His second question, I couldn't raise it to you. Shall I read
Okay.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
And in what ways can bias detection algorithms and rapid ethnographic validation methods be used to ensure decisions respect marginalized communities? How can decision support frameworks balance speed, accuracy, and ethical consideration, especially inclusion of marginalized groups without compromising performance? It's a long question and it's some technical kind of things.
Yeah. Um, got it. Goes a little bit in the same direction, I think, huh? Um, so just let me think quickly. Yes, it's a technical question, but I'm trying to rephrase the core idea. It's actually because the core idea is actually quite practical. So using algorithms to flag where the harm may be happening, or and use rapid ethnography to check whether the flags reflect lived reality before acting on them. So there's recently or latest guidance recommends that fairness assessments across demographic groups and subgroups, including field testing with subgroup population, because bias is not only a model problem, but a real world harm problem. So rapid ethnography assessment is useful here because it's designed to produce fast, practical feedback. Um, yeah, when you go into algorithm checks, um, they are not enough by themselves. Again, here, this is a very well. It's again sharp, but it's a very. I mean, we can go on about this for quite a long time because um, okay. I'll give you my opinion. What I think about like marginalized to respect the marginalized communities. So a fast decision framework should be include a few non-negotiable design rules. Non-negotiable is again pretty harsh to say because it includes as well that the theory behind this is that if you non-negotiable, then it means that you think you're right, and I don't like that approach. But affected communities need representation early, not only after deployment. Second, speed should not eliminate contextual review for high-impact cases. And third, there should be a very to pause, escalate, or override the system when subgroup harm is detected, if that makes sense. So if you look at recent implementation, science work emphasizes or co-creation with community partners, genuine decision-making power for advisory structures, and explicit attention to power imbalances rather than treating implementation as purely technical. Are you okay to kind of like if we if we tip these topics a little bit like this, because otherwise, we go into the algorithm and everything is research based. But I think it's also important what we said in the beginning about feeling heard, feeling seen, um, feeling misunderstood, or feeling that the mental health is injustice or should be social justice, and how we can repair that. Um, you said, okay, hello from Sri Lanka. I'm also living in Sri Lanka. I didn't, maybe I forgot to say that in the beginning. So I do feel, see, and hear what is happening in this side of the world as well. I'm not sitting in my ivory tower in the Netherlands. Um, yeah. So yeah, what is your suggestion on this, Madura? Because I feel like if I become too technical, it just like
Yeah, yeah,
becomes.
that's thing. Yeah, doctor, I would say like this now. Say now, if you want to come up with a mathematical model or any kind of formula for consciousness, now that's a complex kind of problem. So because you can't explain the consciousness fully, you can't explain the consciousness mathematically, because consciousness is a very complex and there are so many perspectives, so you can't put a mathematical type of definition for the consciousness. So in such cases you have to come up with your lived realities, lived experience, and that's how I mean there has to be a pragmatic way. Pragmatic in the sense you have to be practical. So practical in the sense, if someone says that you have to look at this consciousness with the quantitative lens or with the mathematical lens, you can't do it. So you have to be aligned with the context. That's the thing. So it's, for the person who's asking that question now, it's like if you have a subjective reality, sometimes those subjective realities cannot be captured by quantitative methods or the algorithms. And sometimes when it comes to this AI algorithms and all, what happens is now they have algorithm bias. So it's like the algorithm is thinking artificially, but it might miss some cognitive abilities the person or the human has. So it gets, I mean, the human abilities will be disappeared gradually, because the human are relying on so much relying on the AI. So AI is developed based on the algorithms. So the algorithms are the ones who is thinking. When you learn, when you just hinder your imagination and use the algorithms and AI and all, what happens is you are towards this AI bias. So this human thinking or human cognition gets disappeared day by day. So it's a real risk. So you have to come up with some, ethnographic studies, or you can talk with people. It's a collective effort. The machine alone can't do everything. You have to come up with people skills, soft skills, and empathy. Those things has to be there. So I think if you look at the world with all these lenses, the interpretivist lenses and the positivist lenses, both of these lenses has to be there. Then only you will be coming up with a good solution. So that is the challenge for the human race. We have to maintain the balance. So if you go to more into technical jargon, you like your brain, I mean, you are using one part of your brain, not the other part. So you have to use both. Emotions also have to be there. Algorithms also have to be there. So it depends on the context and all. So that's my idea.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but we can almost not rule out anymore that the presence of AI or algorithms are there, right? And so it's also important to look at it if you use them. That, in my opinion, you can use them as an early warning system to identify subgroup disparities. So while rapid ethnographic validation should be used to verify those disparities in real community contexts, like you said, and uncover their causes. So this decision support frameworks can balance speed, accuracy, and ethics by using risk feared review. So it's about like allowing organizations to move quickly without treating inclusion, like I said before, as an afterthought. So you have to take this right and left brain half, as you put it out, by having a little bit of, well, technology's there, but don't forget the other side. And it also depends, in my thought, in my eyes, who's doing the research. So if you if you can treat inclusion not as an afterthought, but as an included thought in your research and or in the approach you have, and it protects performance where you're targeting deeper review to the decisions where marginalized groups, what we are talking about here, face the greatest risk of harm. Does it still make sense?
Rashid, Nasir, can you just unmute and join the discussion? So it will be helpful to all of the participants. If you can join our discussion, Rashid.
Well, that's also okay. I mean, is there any other question or type of question referring to the core of today's approach to the general aspect of marginalization?
There is another question. This is this question concerns sewage workers in India. How can we understand substance use not just as an individual problem or only caused by social conditions, but as something shaped by the interaction between the body, work, and social hierarchy? Most of them use substances before work, and others do not use anything. How can we explain this difference?
Okay. Could you define the the substances? So is that in terms of alcohol or tobacco or something else?
Yeah, as the way he has used the word, it may be something like that. Some uh, alcohol or something like that.
Okay, because savage work in many parts of India, as I know it, is involves toxic gases, right? Hydrogen sulfate. What else is there? Methane, I think. So there's also a lot of smell and sense overload. It's infection risk, skin exposure, fear of suffocation and death. So substances, what is used, often alcohol or other calming or escape substances, To deal with things psychological, so the dulling, nausea, smell, dizziness, sometimes also about pain regulation or, well, reducing bodily discomfort from work, and fear management. So numbing, and that's in my eyes the most active reason. So the numbing anxiety before entering confined spaces. That is, yeah. It goes into a deeper layer here, because it's a work towards social hierarchy, so cost, dignity, and normalization. So what I've learned a while ago is that this sewage work is deeply tied to class or caste based occupational stratification. So that means that the workers are often from marginalized communities from history, so from the past or historically speaking. And the work is socially stigmatized and dehumanized, and there is a limited upwards mobility or recognition. So in this context, well, I think it's not really answering the question, because I think it's about like how to deal with that some people do and some people don't. But the reason why some people do it is to avoid or numb the reality. So I do, although I do understand the question, but in my eyes, it's not always a social condition cause. That stress. So social condition cause stress, and stress leads to substance use. This is a completely different theme, and that's something I've been studying or did my research in South Africa on being. Actually, the first poem you've seen today, I said to you, Madura, I'm not going to mention it, but I'm going to mention it anyway. That poem about grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to see the difference, is actually coming from the AA book. So that's called the Big Book from Alcoholics Anonymous. But it's applicable to a lot of situations in life. And the choice of using substances to numb feelings is, there's a big discussion about that, because some people say it's a free choice, you can choose not to, but it's also a recognized disease, addiction. So it depends on what kind of way substances are used or abused, because using or abusing is a big difference, and that leads to another completely other problem in theory. But the reason why people use it, I just mentioned. And you can smoothen everything in an understandable model or whatever you want to call it. But fact is that it's difficult because some people do, some people don't, and how you can unite if you're different in the approach. But like I said, this touches a complete deeper root cause that can have many causes of origin, and it's depending on. It has nothing to do with how strong you are or how mentally strong you are. Sometimes because it's proven that there's also a gene, like there are for all minorities or marginalized communities. There's also for other excluded parts of population, like people who have a sexual preference for the same sex, right? So I don't know how many letters you have these days, but LHBTQ H. There's as well as with that, there's a gene or gen, so inherited, that can make you way more sensitive to addiction than others, and that's something it's not something you can just choose to prevent. You can choose how to deal with it and to get over it, and let somebody or an institution help you if you have the access to it. But it touches a different point in my eyes, that if I get the question right.
Uh, Hello, sir. Actually, I was the one who asked the question. Yes, actually, the question was the same. It's about, actually, I wanted to know about the difference. Why there is a difference between these copying mechanism? Because it's obviously a copying mechanism for the people, to use the substance, drugs, or any kind of things. But that difference, I want to understand in a psychological way. If I want to use it in my work, how can I use that difference, the basic difference? Because 80% of them are using substances, but only, not even 80, it's more than 80% are using substances, but other 10% is not. But they are doing the same work, they belong to same community, same condition, same family backgrounds, almost in everything. So it's at the personal level, the difference exists. It's only that's what I just wanted to ask, basically. So yes, that was the question.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
adding that to it. Yeah, I mean here, like again, like I said before, there's there's also something like here are different mechanisms at work as well, right? I mean, let's say I was 16 or something, and then the whole class started to smoke cigarettes because that was cool, and then you kind of join with the group or not. A part of that is like kind of in group, uh, group pressure or something, group to belong somewhere again. And the part says, okay, let's not do that. And that if you say that's a minority, then that minority has to be double strong, right? But again, I mean, the let's say the root cause of the stress appraisal, how you want to call it, is this unbearable? Is this work unbearable? So that triggers an urgency to escape. This is bad, but I can handle it. Activates coping, so no substance. And apparently the majority is not doesn't have. Yeah, it's difficult because it sounds like, hey, it doesn't have the strength. That's not what I mean, because it sounds like somebody sitting on a high horse looking down on something you don't know how that functions. But I think in general it's emotional regulation style. So that's what I would like to summarize it in.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the question, and all of you, by the way, because it's not what I'm used to, and it's interesting. So yeah.
Thank you so
Doctor,
much for
I have a question with your experience. So, as researchers, if we are doing a research combining psychology and marginalized communities, with your experience, what areas we should focus, like combining these two concepts in today's environment? I mean, the latest trends and all. How, what are the scopes and areas we can combine these two concepts in research?
Okay. let me start to say this a little bit of a mean question where you say in these days, because you have, maybe you don't know, but I'm a kind of a dinosaur when it comes to it slowly feels like, at least. So I have been in this field for like 28 years now, and to be honest, yeah, especially with the question before, with the technology and implemented AI, and let me say, I make notes with a pen and a paper, so you can all laugh about that, but it's a fact. You know, I still have a paper agenda even. But the big shift, what I'm sensing in the big shift in the field is that most research is moving away from the question of, hey, what is wrong with marginalized people, towards how do systems, environments, bodies, so institutions or organizations, psychology, interact to produce outcomes. This shift is visible across, well, very many domains. So community psychology, so focus on justice and systems, mental health, mental health equities research, AI and bias studies. So like we discussed before, which I think you should only use for now as a maybe as a warning sign in an early stage. And then you have implementation science, where I think that's hitting the most well, like Madura said before, embodiment and lived experience. So this is, and what in your question is very strong.
Lived experience means now different people have different realities. Like now, once you, I mean, for example, let's say we are looking at an object. Say we are looking at a house. So for different people, the house appears in different ways. Someone might see the roof, someone might see the color of the wall, someone might see the door. So it's the perception of the people. So this perception makes the reality of that particular person. So when we deal with different realities, it's kind of complex. So the people who have empathic skills, empathy to understand others' feelings, they can just capture the whole picture. It's like when you see the house, you can capture everything, the roof and the walls and the inside, everything. So it's like you are having empathy. So, if you study the lived experience means the people are living in their imagination. Now you see a person, he's living a luxury life or whatever from the surface level, but he's living his own experience, living in his own imagination, in mind. So these the realities in the mind are not seen by the other people. So if we can peep into these lived experience of each person, then we can collectively enhance the communication, and through that communication we can eliminate this the perceived marginalization. Now sometimes there are cases where like you are not marginalized actually, but you in your perception you are marginalized, psychologically you are marginalized. You think the people will there will be a problem or something. Even in the last case, now some workers, they were taking substance and others are not. So in that case, now if you think that if you are being marginalized, if you don't take substance and you are taking the substance, and you are addicted to that. So why? What's the point of doing that? So it is the perceived perceived marginalization that is in your reality, that is in your mind. So there has to be somebody to guide them. Now uh, out of say 100 people, if 95 people are 95 persons are doing something bad, something adverse, so then other five also we join them. So that's not the way. So You have to have like one person to say that this is bad, this is wrong, and you have to stop it. So that is where the novelty comes. That is where the change comes. So impact, that impact is uh, done by the sometimes the minority. So sometimes as you said, some high intelligence people are marginalized. So if they can, break that barrier and make an impact on the society, so that's where your strength comes. That's how you have to embrace the opportunities. So I think you can be more practical. You can be more practical. So for you to become practical, you can just study around, study your environment, study your social aspects, and you can talk with the people. You can respect different aspects of the people, different psychological mindsets. You can learn psychology, so you know that they are living in this reality. So this person A is living in one reality, person B is living in another reality. So likewise, you know everybody. So you can improve your empathy through these ethnographic studies. I think you can be with people always. You are always doing a research. Now, if you go to the road, you can observe so many things. You can gain some insights. So you can like your mind is there, so you can just investigate the things. So and you can come up with a research idea. Sometimes tomorrow I might walk in the road and I can see a certain person, and if when I observe him, I can come up with a research idea. So it's like that. So that is the lived experience. So we can convert the lived experience into sometimes into numbers, sometimes into qualitative insights or whatever. So that's how I look at that.
Yeah. If you want to summarize the three topics, which actually are touching each other quite a bit, the question about the work and the substance abuse, and before the algorithm-based. So it is all, and the question about what kind of methods, like, it's almost feeling like you asked me what kind of methods are trending, right? A trending topic. So what I think, like, well, one thing which we maybe didn't mention today yet, or what is having I said a similarity in the questions that we just went through, is like what's not mentioned before is like the what is a very fast growing and important one in psychology. So it's culturally responsive psychology, and it's something that I really support, especially in Sri Lanka, where I'm now based. So I cannot talk for the whole world, but it's about decolonizing psychology. So sounds weird out of my mouth, maybe. But the focus is to challenge the Western psychology frameworks and understanding local meaning systems, co-create knowledge with communities. Because psychology itself also can carry cultural bias and shape inequality. So, yeah, to make a little bit of a summary, is like right now you asked me what is let's say in X, Twitter, talk, or Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram trending topic. So current research at the intersection of psychology and marginalized communities is slowly shifting understanding how structural conditions, lived experience, and psychological processes interact. So basically what you just said, Maduro, as well. So key areas include embodied stress and coping within group differences, culturally responsive models, AI bias and ethics, and community-based mental health intervention increasingly mixed method and participatory approaches. Sorry about that one, but I have a difficulty with pronouncing participatory. So that's a little bit, yeah. And what is interesting here is also what you just said before, is like that how it comes that within a group. So let's say the old-fashioned research would be, okay, let's compare rich versus poor, majority versus minority. And now in the newer methods, it's called compare. Oh, sorry. Why do people in the same marginalized group differ? So that's what you just said, that even in that marginalized groups, a minority can shift awareness towards the majority. Does that make sense?
Yes, doctor. Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
Doctor, something little to be added. Now there's a concept called augmentation, AI augmentation. Have you heard of it? The AI augmentation.
Sorry, Madhu, I couldn't hear good.
Augmentation.
Augmentation.
Yeah, augmentation.
You asking?
Yeah, augmentation. AI augmentation. It's a concept about enhancing the human intelligence using artificial intelligence. It's like you are using the artificial intelligence and simultaneously you are enhancing or developing your the human intelligence also. So it's called the AI augmentation. Is there anything like that? Have you heard of it? Because it comes with this the
Yeah,
new.
okay, I
Yeah.
get what you mean, because you're bringing in AI augmentation, not just as like a technical tool, but as something that can enhance new human decision making and understanding,
Yeah, that's
especially
right.
in complex, sensitive contexts like marginalized community.
Yeah, and when it comes to this
Um,
decolonization, what happens is now you can just uh, smother the ancient knowledge. It comes under archaeology. You can smother the ancient knowledge, and then you can train the AI models with ancient knowledge. If you come across something new or some number system or whatever, you can just feed it to the AI systems, and then you can train the AI models accordingly. So it might eliminate this AI bias, because if you incorporate this augmentation into AI, what happens is this algorithmic bias you can eliminate. You can't eliminate totally. You can just mitigate that risk. You can control it. So that's the important important utility of this augmentation. So when it comes to decolonization, it can be useful.
yeah, I think so too. And I think that there's something that is really important here, is that the real, well, the real power, if you want to call it like that, is not on only AI or only human intuition, but AI, human empathy, and contextual understanding, as you said before as well. That combination is where your work can become impactful, you know. But I mean, when you talk about AI augmentation, I mean, that's also, it's basically you're referring to use artificial intelligence to enhance more than replace human intelligence by supporting pattern recognition, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And in research with marginalized communities, yeah, it does enable the integration of large-scale data insights with deep contextual and psychological understanding, but that has to be provided by human researchers, in my
Yes.
eyes. Okay.
And for us to challenge these Western models and theories, we have to come up with a new type of imagination. Now, you don't know how to imagine. Like when you look into the ancient knowledge system, sometimes you might come up with a certain type of a different type of novel type of imagination. So then, no, we can challenge the Western models also if you come up with such such insights.
Yes, and even in ancient knowledge, and I speak out of my personal experience, as a hobby, I do some quantum physics, and we built a magnetical motor to generate new renewable energy. Where the whole physics world said to us that what we are doing is impossible, and that's where the people from Mensa get a challenge. If somebody says something is impossible, they start to uh, dig deep to prove the opposite. That doesn't always pay off, but in this case it was. And we improved one of the ideas that I don't know if everybody knows Nikola Tesla. I mean, I know that people know the car, but there was actually a scientist called like that, and a lot of his work got lost. And this is really like research in ancient style, with mm, it because of the effect of frequencies, magnetical field to create fields that have a psychological impact. I mean, there's proof of of these kind of tools that have been around for decades already without people knowing. And yeah, so that's in addition to what you said, challenging for decolonization. But on the other hand, it's also interesting to sometimes like let go of all the models and all the how I say that the framed research methods that you learn in university. Um, I don't know how it is with you, but I've in my experiences I've learned to think for myself after quitting the cooperation with the NHS, who is very biased in diagnosing people with a certain kind of syndrome or or disorder or something like that, and then put them on meds, and then having that slow field of controlling instead of disrupting root causes. So to add to the answer to the previous lady who asked me about the newer researches, there's also a lot going on where individuals as your blueprint character is is something that also influences the choices you make or you feel to make, because I think that we're looking here at a wide field of potential possibilities for approaching research, right? And or approach marginalized communities. But what I think is like, and that's basically my summary out of my own experience. If you rely on the right brain half, as we speak in neurology, but the creative, the intuitive, and the brain gut connection, and you feel that what you're doing makes sense for you, and you do that in a respectful way, to not get into the blame corner, because that's also something that has a big influence these days. The social media comments from people who sitting anonymously at home and having all kind of opinions, and who are dividing the world in camps of pro and contra. And I think if you can rely on your gut sometimes, that's I mean, this is not made as a blame, but what I'm sensing sometimes is that what you also mentioned, Madhura, is that the integration of AI and also the technology, to be careful and learn from the past that if tools get into wrong hands, it can be abused, right? And yeah, human sense of what is good and what is not good, based on your gut and based on intuition and values, is still, well, of big value. And yeah, the rest is a challenge. And new is good, but new doesn't always mean better. And that's why you have to look at it carefully and use it in the right way. So that's kind of the statement I wanted to add towards it, because I think, whatever, it's very easy to say, as when you're a band like, I mean, talk about marginalization. I don't know if everybody knows the band Coldplay, but it's quite famous. And the singer was a geography teacher. The band knows each other from history classes, not from tutoring. So they went their own way and they're quite successful. But in the beginning, their parents also said, hey, music is not a right choice because you can't become anything like a lawyer, doctor, or what is it, an engineer with it. So even in the research, even in the approach to psychology, sometimes follow your own path and see what it does. So that's a little advice from my side that packed out pretty good for myself. And having that acknowledgement, especially in a country like Sri Lanka or even in South Africa before, means to me more than it did in Netherlands or in Switzerland.
So I think we have passed the time now. So already 9:04. So
Okay. Yeah. What is your proposal, Madhura?
I think this session is coming to the end. Now I can't see any more questions here. To wrap up the session, I would say like this is a different type of session because it started in a different with a different vibe, and actually like as researchers we have to always come up with this human touch, the soft
Mm-hmm.
skills, and people have to get together and collectively we have to achieve this endeavor. So that's how we can eliminate or reduce these marginalizations. We can understand each other if we discuss and if we research and if we look at the world in different perspectives, different lenses, through different lenses. So it makes us more equipped to manage this marginalization. So I think you have given a lot of research insights, practical insights, and your personal experience with us. So it was so valuable, and it was so interactive. Actually, we have been talking or discussing for about 1 hour. So it was really nice to exchange ideas like this, and you enlightened us really well. On behalf of Blue Ocean Insights and James CSJ, I would like to express my gratitude to you, Dr. Lars Hendrik, for giving us this opportunity to share insights with you. And you have done a great job here. You have enlightened our participants, and it was a nice experience actually. Thank you for all those insights and your presence here.
Thank you. Blue Ocean Insights, Madura personally, and all people who make this possible, who make this platform possible.